Always been crazy to me that I'm slightly older than Chief Keef. It's just one of those things that wows me because he's just been around forever, what it feels like, and yet he's not even that old. we're not that far in age. And I know what you're thinking. I know the first thought you had there, you're thinking, I thought you looked younger, Ryan. That's what you thought. You were thinking it, weren't you? I know, guys. Calm down. Stop the applause, the clapping. Calm it down. It's getting embarrassing. You didn't need to clap that much. I know you were thinking, oh, he looks so young. I know. Calm it down. He just looks so youthful. I know, guys. I know. Just stop. Okay. But when he was, when we were both like, whatever, 15, 16, 17, I'm out here not even know what I want to do with myself. I didn't even know what I was to do, struggling, thinking, what the hell do I do? Do I go to university? What do I do? And here he is making an album called Finally Rich. Finally Rich! He made an album called Finally Rich at 16. Finally Rich. What the hell do you mean you were finally rich at 16? Finally rich? When am I finally rich? Of course, he's somebody now that's just very much considered a legend of the game, even if you personally don't have a huge appreciation for the kind of music he makes, which I still think there might still be people out there that don't really have that affiliation with this style of music or don't quite treat it in the same way as other styles of rap or other styles of all genres of music, really. But I still think you would be foolish and in denial if you didn't at least appreciate his overall influence on so many different styles of hip-hop. Like, the guy has done it all at this point. You know, you're looking at things like cloud rap, trap, drill. Like, he has just been so synonymous with all of these genres, kind of all rising to the top all at the same time. And some of it really does date back to some of these early albums that Chief Keef was putting out, and some of his early mixtapes too. So many names you could point to and go, they've got to have had at least some influence from Keef. He's collaborated with so many different types of artists too. It's very hard to not at least appreciate the things he's done for the genre of music. For me personally, you might be wondering, I think he's great. I mean, I haven't had much chance to talk about Keef on this channel because a lot of his more recent stuff I haven't really felt the need to review or talk about or had much interesting things to say because I haven't really rated them that highly. And of course, with this album being so pushed back and delayed constantly to the point where it's been years now where we've had to wait, I've just never had an opportunity to finally really sit down and just be like, hey, let's talk about Chief Keef. But I do think he's really good. I think the Back from the Dead series is really good. Obviously, Finally Rich is a good album too with some classic songs. So many great songs throughout the years. And of course, the Almighty So album, which I only went back to recently because initially I didn't really like it that much, but now I appreciate even more now and think about how forward-thinking that was in terms of its production style back in the day. Jesus Christ, like, so whacked out and bizarre in places, but so unique and so glorious at the same time. Blew my high, what a song that is. So many amazing tracks on there, and just always have appreciated his style. And like I say, it's had so much of a ripple effect on the rap music industry at large that it's hit a point where actually some people don't even reference him that much now. So he's kind of falling a bit on the underrated side, but I think people that know him know how good he is, including me. And thankfully, Almighty So 2 doesn't have to be one of those other albums that I'm just like, I'll put that on the side, don't really bother talking about this one, because it has lived up. Chief Keef lived up this time. I'm certainly not skipping this album from him. This is really great and is thankfully as good as anyone could have hoped. It's funny because there's that whole skit on the album where, like, there's some guy being like, well, you just dropped the freaking album, man. Like, people are waiting on you. People, this is blah, blah, blah. And like, now thinking about it, I kind of don't mind that we had to wait, because he's obviously took his time with this and really put his best work down to make sure this was gonna be as legendary as it could be, because obviously the first one is so famous and so legendary amongst the people that know and love it. You have to try and at least keep up with that level of and quality, and I think he did. One of the best things I think about this album is just how big and lively the production is. He's really picking so many different various beats to rap over, and does it all so well every single time. As I already mentioned, you know, his impact on so many different like subgenres of hip-hop music is so huge. it doesn't really hit me with too much of a surprise that he can do all of these different things on this one album and pull it all off, because the opening track, the intro, I mean, it's just an intro. Usually I don't even say that much about intros, but Jesus Christ, the operatic, like, huge theatrical feel of this track is just so grand and just makes you feel like you know something big is about to come. Like, this track really sets you up, really gets you hyped up and excited for something big, and the album delivers. The 70-minute album delivers too, which sometimes I'll say on this channel, some albums feel like they're a little long, you know, maybe some filler, whatever you want to call it. But no, this album really feels like he put everything into every track, and there's not really any time wasted. The cougar line I found pretty funny on that opening intro too. And that's the other thing as well, that I did want to highlight how funny a lot of these lines are on this album, because he's really coming out with some ridiculously over-the-top lines and out-of-pocket lines that feel like you maybe shouldn't be saying that, but also just really nice sense of humor coming along with it too. Like, it just kind of feels like he's hit a point where he can just have that confidence. That's what I like about Almighty So too, listening to it. Like, it's so different from the earlier stuff he was putting out, because I guess he's hit an age now where he's just like, yeah, I know my place in the game, I know my impact, I can just kind of say these stupid goofy lines and just say them with confidence and actually show people that he is really funny, to be honest. Like, Treat Myself, where he says, bitch, I wake up in the morning, look in the mirror and kiss myself. Like, it's so stupid and cheesy, but he just says it with in such a funny voice. The Jesus skit. Now, I'm very much aware that I'm probably not the person to be talking about this, and that is fine. The stuff he says on this track and the call outs of actual people that he name drops. Drake getting another name drop too. Like, he cannot catch a break. He cannot catch a break, can he, this guy at the minute? But yeah, this leads into the Jesus track, and the delivery on this track is like so spiky and bloodthirsty. Like, Keef sounds insane here, but it sounds so good. Like, some of the kind of like horror elements remind me of stuff like Young Nudy's doing, and Young Nudy is a good name drop here as well, because it's like he probably has been so influenced by Keef's whole sound throughout his career as well. There's a few features on this album that I think are worth mentioning as well. You've got Quavo, who is on the track Never Fly Here, which it's got a really good beat. I don't think Quavo's feature is amazing, just because I think a lot of his lines feel like very cheap references and nods to things where he's like setting himself up to like, it's like really obvious references, like when he says kick it and then he says Messi and Ronaldo, just really like cheap references there. In fairness though, Keef on this track has a few cheap references too, where he just like says something that's so obviously setting up for him to say the most obvious thing he can think of. And that's the thing, I totally am aware of that. You know, Keef on a lyrical level is never going to be like a master when it comes to this across his entire discography. So if you are going to this album and going into it from this review thinking, oh, it's going to be really good, and then you hear some of the lyrics, I'm totally aware that you're not going to the right place for lyrics. So maybe critiquing lyrics on that sense is a bit silly. But yeah, I just think for a beat so good, I would have preferred a little bit more of a harder delivery from both of them. Tierra Whack? Where was this on your album? Your album from this year was not very good at all. I'm sorry it wasn't, but this was great. This feature is so good. You could even say she probably washes Keef on this. She sounds so amped up. It's so good. And then of course Sexy Red pops up too. An unexpected feature. I didn't think that was going to be something we'd see, but I usually am a bit of a Sexy Red naysayer. But I actually like what she does over this beat. I think it sounds really good. I think she's kind of matching Keef's delivery as well, so she's not quite as erratic and as bombastic as she is on her own stuff. And I find her delivery a little annoying sometimes, which is one of the problems I've had with her, which I've mentioned on this channel in the past too. But on this track, I think she sounds really good. I do like how on his part of the song, he's like, what is a groom? Like, he kind of referencing the idea of getting married just seems so alien to him. And then when it gets to Sexy Red's verse, she starts off with what is a bride. So I quite like that little callback reference there, both of them kind of referencing the whole thing about marriage not really being for them. And the one thing that Keef says on this track, which is so out of pocket, your mama should have put your broke ass back in the womb. Wow. Love the track 123. The sinister blaring like horns in the production are just so menacing and so like anxiety inducing. It's such an odd beat, but the way it kind of keeps going, and like, it sounds so mad, but only Chief Keef could make something like this work. It's absolutely insane. Also, like his whole line about how he's talking about being rich, which is really like stereotypical for hip hop, and a lot of rappers do talk about that. But I like how he puts his own funny spin on it by saying me and Diamonds have been having babies. Like, I know it's such a one-liner that isn't that big of a deal, but I just liked how he put his own spin on the idea of being rich. He just puts his own Chief Keef silly humor to it. We've got Believe coming towards the end of the album, which I want to mention too, just for the reason of the production sounding so unique compared to the rest of this album. I mean, the way the production makes it sound like classic Clams Casino, classic Friend Zone. It makes me feel like I'm listening to something on a Lil B album, honestly. It sounds so good. And of course, Chief Keef over this production is actually sounding really much more mellow, and makes it work really nicely with the fact that you listen to some of the lyrics and read into them. And Keef is getting a bit more introspective, talking about how he sort of treats women and treats his daughter specifically, and how he feels like he's turned into his dad a little bit. Not the most, incredible lyrical, spiritual miracle thing you're ever going to hear, but I thought it was a nice change of pace for the album. Gave us a bit more of a serious track to give us on this album that's full of just outrageously like fired up bangers. But quickly after that, you get the Tony Montana flow, the rack stuffed in a couch, and then the final track, which are just way harder and way fierier, and they got the hardest hell beats coming through. Keef's just menacing delivery once again. I do quite like how I'm Trying to Sleep is the closing track, and at one point in the album he says somewhere like sleep is for the weak. I just thought it was a little funny thing. Like, you're so contradictory, Keef. But yeah, for me this is great. Exactly lives up to what we would hope for a Chief Keef album of this caliber. I mean, it's a sequel to an already legendary mixtape. He had to take his time with it, and he had to get it right. And I think he does. I really do. I think he took his time for a good reason and produced one of his best albums in so long. Like I say, he has been putting out stuff. I've been skipping over some of it. Not really thought it was worth reviewing. Some of it's just been a bit meh for his usual standards. But not this time around. He really did deliver. I gotta go 8 out of 10. For me, it's one of the best albums of the year. And not only that, but is easily in the conversation for being like the best rap hip-hop album of the year too. Which I know some people might go, oh, but it's not lyrical, it's not this, that, and the other. Yeah, of course it's not. It's not gonna be that kind of album that requires like a magnifying glass to decipher all the double entendres and all of this. He's never been that kind of artist. He still is very much, deserving of having a seat at the table, and there's all kinds and forms of rap that require different things, and I think Keef is just so unique to the world of hip-hop that I'm more than okay with excusing some silly lyrics here and there for just great music, because it just is so good. And that is my review. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Tell me what I should review next as well. Check out my Patreon as well if you would like to support me over on there for more videos in the future. Join the Discord server. You get shout outs as well, of course, too. Thank you as always. Do subscribe if you haven't already. At the very least, like the video, share it around. Tell me your thoughts on this album in the comments. Have a good day. Goodbye.